So it's springtime and we're going to tap the black birch today. I like to collect its sap for Birch Sap Wine, which is a delicious drink actually. It's considered a tonic in Europe. They use it to drink the compounds in it for medicinal purposes, and I just like doing it because I like the taste of it, to be honest. It's a decent little boost of energy, especially if you're out camping. I mean, I would drink this any day over water. You're going to get some sugar and other things, and you know, it's good for you and it's fun. It's nice to learn about things. Once you figure out how to do this, you can educate other people, because not a lot of people realize you can tap birch trees. All we ever hear about up in the Northeast is, you know, these maple sugaries, and that's great stuff too. I think the birches have something a little more special to lend than just for making syrup and things like that. So, black birch, it's really easy to ID. Just look for these lines. Most bark grows vertically, but this bark peels horizontally, typical of most birch. But this one's easy to ID, because if you just scratch the bark with your fingernail or knife and you smell it, it's going to smell like wintergreen. And the bark actually has a lot of medicinal properties to it. You can make birch tea, which is really great, especially if you have a headache. It's probably one of the best trees out there for woodcraft, bushcraft, foraging. It's there year round, so I don't know any other tree that really lends himself that much to wild edibles and all that stuff. So let's talk, let's get to tapping these trees. So I'm kind of just showing you some of my process here. So here's a spile that I'm carving out of looks like Blue Beech. So this will be my hanger for my bucket. I like using branches because they're stronger instead of carving a notch, because sometimes these buckets get kind of heavy. This end will be what's hammered into the tree, about a centimeter or two. And we're going to carve a small channel down the top of it, which is going to then run down into this groove that I'm carving. So the sap will run this way and then down into your bucket, basically using gravity to feed it directly into your can or bucket, billy pot, whatever you're using to collect your sap. So I'm just going to keep carving this. You don't really have to go too crazy making things intricate unless you want to practice your knife skills. Liquid takes the path of least resistance, so if you make a channel in a groove, it's going to follow it and drip down to the lowest point on this stick. It's pretty foolproof. You don't have to go nuts. It's supposed to be fun anyways. And if you're going to collect a lot of sap, you're going to have to make a bunch of these, so I don't recommend spending 4 hours making a fancy little spile when, you know, the more you carve with your knives, the better your knife skills get, especially when you're out in the woods. So you can make these pretty quick. I mean, I only spent like 5 minutes on that, and I always try to look for branches that lend themselves to what I'm trying to make. I might not even have to carve a channel, because it's going to run down the stick anyways, no matter how you do it. So the other thing you want to do is you want to taper your end. This way it fits in like a cork. If you make it all perfectly the same, it's going to fall right out. You want to taper it because you're going to bang this in with the pull of your axe or mallet or whatever you got laying around, a rock. So it's almost time to auger out the hole and get collecting. So decent spile, nothing to write home about, but it works. I thought I'd talk about some other tips and guidelines for drilling these. Birch trees don't really grow that large around here, so you don't want to have more than one tap per tree this size. Maples grow a lot bigger, and I've heard some trees you can put 6 spiles onto, so just a loose guideline. I don't want to damage the tree because I plan on tapping these next year, so you just want to be careful. You don't want to drill too deep. Most people recommend no more than 2 centimeters. Less than an inch. You don't want to hit heartwood because you're going to damage the tree and you don't want to kill it. And you also want a clean hole because you don't want to introduce disease into the trees. There's ways to do this without harming the tree, and you know, you'll read all kinds of stuff online how you're not supposed to do that and it kills the trees, but people have been doing this since the beginning of time. These trees lend themselves to this, so we're going to utilize it. And besides, I have permission to tap these trees anyways. They're just here to grow. No one's using them for anything. And this one did die. I'd fell her and carve kooks and spoons out of her anyway, so perfect tree for tapping. It's got a lot of sugar in the sap, and it has a decent wintergreen flavor. The other birch trees I don't really bother with. Silver and yellow are kind of tasty, but once you get down to like the paper birch, they taste like water, so this is the one you want. When you're doing this, you want to make sure that you're not drilling completely straight in. You want to have an angle because you're going to be utilizing gravity. Gravity's going to pull your sap from the tree down the spile into your bucket, so you want a downward motion here. And the best time to do this is when it's cold at night, cold in the morning, and warm during the day. So I picked the north side of the tree because where I am right here in the forest, there's less trees facing the north, so that's the warmer spot of the tree. As theory says, you know, you're going to get more sap on that side, so we'll see if that's true. But you want cold nights and warm days, and that's gonna force this sap out of the roots like a big water pump. Right now, if you look up at this birch tree, you could just barely see that there's buds starting to come out. But that's what this sap is for. It's going to grow leaves. You want to do this now. And if you don't take too much, you won't harm the tree at all. It's not going to miss any extra sap. And besides, there's probably 400,000 woodpeckers around here that have been poking in the trees, and you can see some of the trees are bleeding. This is nature's way of lending itself to you, and you can do this without harming the tree. And there's a lot of benefits to drinking sap. It's not just for fun. You know, you can make syrup. I make Birch Sap Wine, which is an ancient tonic, I guess you could say. It's drank medicinally all over Europe to cure diseases like cancer. I think it's a neat tree. Even without the medicinal properties, the sap is good for you to drink. There's a lot of minerals and vitamins, and I'm sure there's compounds in there that you can't get anywhere else but from this tree. So something that I think more people should get educated about, and I'm learning more about it every year. I carve this wood. I already have a relationship with this type of tree. It helps put food on the table for me. I've been carving it every day, so I like to try to, you know, take advantage of every single part of the tree. Some notes. Let's get tapping. You can see within seconds of tapping the tree, it's already starting to drip right out. So what I like to do is clean that hole out or blow air into it. And what that does is it keeps stuff out of your can, and you want to get any junk out of there anyways, because when you close this back up, you don't want to close dirt and debris and force it, you know, any kind of disease or parasite into the trees. Take steps like this to ensure that you're going to keep a healthy tree, because it's lending itself to us and we might as well take care of it. Drilled the hole, and as you can see, this almost fits in already, so all I got to do is taper it a little bit more right here, hammer it in, and then hang the bucket, and that's it. It's one of the most simple things you can really do. So people tend to overcomplicate it or make it sound overcomplicated because there's companies that make millions of dollars off maple trees and tapping every year, so they want to make it sound difficult. But you're just drilling a hole and hanging a bucket. You can do this any way you want. I like to do it like this. This isn't the right way or the best way. It's just what I like to do. do whatever you're comfortable with. You want to drill a hole and stick a tube straight into a bucket, that's fine. I like to go low tech and I like to make my own things. And I'm sure all around the world, cultures have been doing this same thing for forever, really. We're almost ready to go. So again, you want to have some kind of notch, because if you hammer this in the way it is, it's going to plug the hole. So you want to leave a little opening. The water feeds up and gets driven down by gravity. That's a decent fit. I'm going to grab my axe. We're going to hammer this in. Now you don't want to hammer it too far, but you'll see when it shoots air out, you got a pretty tight fit. And it sounds solid. That's pretty much it. So now we're going to wait and see if this comes down. And sometimes it takes a couple tries to get it right. If you do it right, it only takes one try. It takes a second once you get that fit just right. Sometimes you gotta pull the spile out and modify it, carve it a little bit, taper it more, but after you do it long enough, you can get it in one try like I did. So, one thing you're gonna notice, this attracts bugs, but that's how you know it's got sugar in it. They're attracted to it. You can figure out your own method of collecting and avoiding having bugs land in it. I like to use the coffee cans, and you can even leave the plastic lid and just poke a hole for the liquid to drain into. Bugs will still find their way in, but you'll get less, because what happens if you don't have a top is the bugs land on top of the water, drink it, and they end up, drowning and dying. And then you got to come and scoop them out. And it's not a big deal, because when I'm making wine, you got to boil this stuff anyways. You'll skim all that out and purify it. That brings up another little thing I wanted to mention, is you don't want to overboil this stuff, because the compounds are very volatile, so by the time you hit boiling point, they're gonna get rid of all that nice wintergreen flavor. So as you can see, there's a decent amount of liquid in there, and let's try it. Yeah, that's good. If anyone says that's not good, they're crazy. So I'm going to show you how I like to do this on the cheap. Most people, at least in America, drink tons of coffee. Here's a typical giant coffee can. So what I did is I hammered a hole with a nail through each side, made a little knot so it doesn't fall out, and literally all you do is this. That's a good sound. That's pretty much it. So now I'm going to show you another little thing I like to do. Take your lid. This one's got some crud on it. So you want to put your lid on and watch where it's dripping. Right here. So that's where I'm going to pierce the lid, because the water is going to pool up on the lid and then go down that little hole. And that's going to help keep out some of the annoying mosquitoes and flies that are attracted to this stuff. You can do this with the lid on, so I'm going to snap the lid on, right? Hang it, watch where it drips, take your knife, pierce one hole, pierce two in an X pattern. Sometimes you need to open it up, or you can cut out a little bit more, so I'll show you how. And these little tabs might fall in, but you can take them out later, it's not going to hurt anything. Just don't drink them. They don't taste that good. So, there you have it. that easy.
I knew it.
Usually if by the end of the night, if you put this up in the morning, by the end of the night they should be full. Sometimes I could fill them up 3 times. Depends on the year, the temperature, the tree, how healthy it is. Lots of variables, but if it's alive, it's gonna have sap. This is how you do it. It'll make the woodpeckers jealous. So typical April weather for New York. It's raining, so I'm glad I put tops on my cans because my sap would be diluted by now. Let's go check them out. This tree's been tapped for about an hour. As you can see, it's already about a 1/5 full. This tree's doing a lot better than last year. Didn't have that promising results. Not bad.